So, Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal is over for the year, and if you've been following the news, you're probably like, yeah, Spooky, it's been over a week, and for that, yeah, I'm kind of late posting this video. Look, I did a lot of content the first week, then I kind of got burnt out on it, so I decided to just do this video as my final goodbye for Fantasia 2024. Cannot wait for 2025. I do enjoy the festival, but damn, it's a lot of work. Anyways, today's video I'll go over what I saw on my last day at Fantasia, over a short that I got through a screener, and of course my overall thoughts on this year's festival. So my last day started with a dud, I'm gonna be honest, Out of the Shadows, a Hong Kong film that I was pretty excited about because it's a Hong Kong film. It has martial arts, at least that's what I thought, but it ended up just being a pretty mediocre drama with some pretty mediocre martial arts thrown in there. It's basically the opposite of how I discussed some people's issue with the Yakuza film I went to see, where a lot of people said the characters weren't likable. Well, in this case, the characters were just too likable, too goody two-shoes, too like, you know, almost righteous people who had no flaws, and the enemies, the villains, were basically just caricatures of villains with only flaws. That kind of lack of any complexity in the characters or the story bores me to death. Adding to that, not great action scenes that are not really in there. There's like 5 or even less fight scenes, and you get a pretty underwhelming experience. Even on technical aspect, the film didn't sound great, it didn't look great, and we're a far cry from the A-days of Hong Kong cinema. Especially because I cover a lot of transgressive Cat 3 cinema on this channel, this felt like basically baby's first martial arts film. I could not get into the story, in fact I forgot most of it already, but the disappointment didn't last long since I watched the 1974 film, I think, or yeah, 74, because it was actually like the 50th anniversary on the day we watched it, of the Monty Hellman classic, at least cult classic, Cockfighter, starring Warren Oates. And oh boy was that film a treat. It was introduced to us by author Kier Lajanis, who I really respect as an author. In fact, I have one of her books that I started reading, House of Psychotic Women, and this screening was to celebrate the release of her new book on Cockfighter, which was really weird concept to, you know, make an entire book out of a 74-minute long exploitation film, but honestly, after watching the movie, I totally understand, and especially since Kier's book goes into much detail about the cultural impact of the sport of cockfighting, especially in the American South. The film itself, we follow Warren Oates, who plays a mute cockfighter who trains chickens, cocks, to fight each other. And since this was the 70s, these are real cockfighting scenes. In fact, most of the animal thingies in there are real, which makes it hard to watch, but you know, it's kind of a movie about the horrors and at the same time the beautiful things aspects of cockfighting. As a viewer, you're really kind of confused as to how you should feel, because the film does a great job at making you like the characters, and it kind of becomes this sports film in typical sports film fashion, where you're rooting for the main character even though he's not the most likable guy, and especially since he's not practicing the most likable sports. It's really a journey into the mind of somebody who does cockfighting for a living, and you really get to see everything from under that sport. Something that, for me, especially a Canadian, I was never familiar with since, you know, cockfighting has probably been banned in Canada for hundreds of years, but in the States, especially the southern states, it's just been banned for like a decade or two. So for me, it was a fascinating point of view into an American tradition that time has forgotten, and honestly, time has just been ashamed of. This movie is really hard to find, so I was glad to see it on the big screen, and the next film I was also glad to see on the big screen. It was my first time watching Cube, the 1997, I think, Canadian classic that I had never seen for some reason, and it was shown at Fantasia because the director was getting an award. Every year they give awards to people who have a significant role in the Canadian and genre film industry, and this year it was Cube's director. And after watching Cube, I can understand. Cube is basically what a lot of people after the film kind of copied. I heard often that Saw was inspired by this film, and although I would admit that, Saw was clearly inspired by this film, it's different enough where it doesn't feel like a ripoff. This is just a very tense thriller about people being stuck in these cubes that they have to kind of figure out the puzzle behind the mystery of the cube, and you follow these characters as they try to escape, and sadly most of them die, and then a couple characters join. It's a very, very great film that is all about the characters, and the film does a great job at keeping you on the edge and making the characters not, I wouldn't say likable, because most of them aren't likable at all, but they're well written enough that you care for them and you really want them to succeed. At the same time, you're trying to understand what's happening. This movie is the definition of a mindfuck in every other way, and honestly, I absolutely loved it. It was the 4K restoration, which I would like to tell you that it looked great, but since this was a busy screening, I got in pretty late in the screening, so all I had as a seat was the front row seat, so I watched the movie like that the entire time, so it made seeing the quality of the film, since I was so close to the screen, kind of difficult to see. And that's how I ended the night with Cube, and honestly I went out on a bang, because I think personally I would give Cube probably like a 9 or 10 out of 10. It's one of the best horror films of the 90s. Not a hard title to get, but Anyways, that was my second and last day at Fantasia. Then I was sent a screener for Make Me a Pizza. I made a short about the short film. It's a great short film. It's this absurdist, experimental, Marxist porn parody about pizza delivery, the typical scenario of, the pizza guy delivering to this lonely wife and then they have sex, but you add to that Lovecraftian horrors and multi-dimensional beings. It's pretty entertaining. I made a short about it. I liked it. It was probably my second favorite short after Meat Puppets. So yeah, Fantasia this year was good for me. I would like to nominate the best and the worst. So for the best new modern film from Fantasia, I will have to give it to Scared Shitless, the new Canadian film with special effects by Steven Kozenski, starring Stephen Hogg, about infested toilets who eat balls. Well, the creature eats the balls, not the toilets. Anyways, that was my favorite new original film. For best retro film, obviously I'll have to give it to Cube, but Cockfighter is very close by. Biggest disappointment? The Paragon. That was, hard to watch. The worst film of Fantasia for me was definitely the short film Bladdershy. Why? What was that? And for a feature-length film, well, Out of the Shadows, I've already forgotten about. Just making this video was hard enough because I had to think about that movie. Yeah, it's not that it's terrible in every way, it's just that it's so mediocre that it really didn't get to me at all. For best experience of the Fantasia Film Festival, I would have to, I don't know, I don't stay for Q&As, I'm a dick. I don't stay for Q&As. I think meeting some directors because they saw my Jess Franco shirt, that was cool, and also Elric, who had a movie playing there. He's on a podcast. I'm not familiar with him, but my friend Grindhouse Funhouse knew him. We talked about Sergio Martino and Giallos, and anytime I can talk about Giallos with anybody, I'm happy about it. Anyways, that was it. I'm gonna go edit this, which is probably not gonna take me long because this was a very short video, and I tried a new style. As you can see, I'm in widescreen. Why did I decide to do that? I don't know. I thought it was cool. I just finished watching Turkey Shoot, which was shot like that, so I was inspired. Anyway, see you at Fantasia in 2025.